Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Secret of the Ooze. Released in 1991, it was directed by Michael Pressman, starring Paige Turco, David Warner, and Micheline. This is the second installment in the live-action Turtle series where we learn the fate of their arch nemesis. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 32-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. I think we talked about this as the movie started. We were trying to figure out the timing of between the first movie and the second movie occurring, because in the real world, this was a year gap. And I think a year gap that surprised us that they were able to release, the second movie so quickly after the first. Because we're not assuming they did production at the same time, right? They just cranked this one out.
I think they cranked it out.
Yeah, they just saw how popular it was and like, yeah, we got to do this.
But I think the way with the change, probably the most immediate thing is seeing the change to the Turtles' costumes. To me, I noticed they were skinnier. I'm sure that was made to ensure that the actors had a much more agile costume to work with, so they could do a lot more of the stunts.
Their faces looked like they had more lip sync to me, like when they were trying to talk.
And
which I don't know if it was a good thing or not.
Well, I mean, that's where the debate comes in, right? So we got to change these little changes for the second movie. But I think the timing was it felt like much more time had passed. And then we were reminded very quickly that we're taken to a dumpster scene and we see that Shredder survived the Casey Jones murder. They're clearly given intent to kill the man that was Shredder in the first film. Were you sad that he was not actually dead?
I was sad that they didn't have Casey Jones. No way to have him in back. He's gone. Not even a mention. Like he went away.
Yeah, I know. They didn't even try to cover it up. Like, he finally got into Hockey League or something,
That would have been better.
I mean,
would be amazing.
I don't know who you really have to be the villain if you didn't have Shredder. Like, this is kind of the problem Ninja Turtles has. It's such a distinct
Krang.
Right, Krang.
Actually, now that you say that, like, I don't know if I necessarily like Krang, but I'd like to have seen what they would have done because they didn't have CGI at this point. To see
that'd be really hard to pull off Krang.
Yeah.
There's been like good Krang cosplays though, I think.
Why do I feel like Krang would look, I'm making a very current reference, like the damn floating head from Ant-Man.
Oh,
some way it would hurt. It would hurt.
Yeah. Or it'd be more like, what was his name from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Why am I forgetting the movie all of a sudden? I'm blinking too much alcohol.
Well, didn't they had Krang in one of the newer Ninja Turtle movies, didn't they?
Supposedly. We'll get to that one, I guess.
I guess we're gonna find out. So yes, I think Shredder does make the quintessential bad guy. I mean, how could it not be? At least especially for the youthful younger Austin, who was not only excited about the first movie, very excited about the second film that we just watched. Taking it back to then, do you remember how you felt after watching this movie as a kid?
I remember enjoying it at the time, to be honest.
That's the right answer. How dare you even think otherwise, Bobby?
No, I agree too. I liked it too. Even the song at the end, I liked it, and I sang it.
Boy. Okay, wait, before we get to that.
Sounds like some PTSD right there.
I mean, they focus a lot on. I will throw out. I mean, definitely anytime we watch these older films, it's always kind of crazy seeing the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah.
There's like no way around it, right? Just the kind of be like, oh man, the world's so different now.
It was interesting how like this movie kind of started the same as the last one, where it was like B-roll type footage of New York, where it's like, okay, we have to set the scene for the first like 5 minutes.
But instead of a crime wave, it's a pizza wave for some reason.
Right.
It was a big pizza wave.
And it wasn't even sponsored this time. Like, what the heck?
The subconscious influence of the Turtles has
after 2 days.
Yes.
I guess that is weird. I'll pull the full adult card and be thinking like in business terms, how the hell did Domino's not sign back on?
It didn't seem like any of them did. I didn't see any product placement in this one. At least it wasn't nearly as overt as like the zoom ins of the last one.
Do they really rush this so much that they're like, "Oh, we have the money we made. We don't need any sponsors." That doesn't feel like how movies
No.
are made this day and age.
Yeah, even back then, I think that they take advantage of that kind of stuff as much as possible.
Mhm.
Like, my guess is if I had to guess, and considering what we know about the behind the scenes and what we did see in this movie and the lack of non-cartoonish violence, my guess is maybe there was a pushback from the first movie and everyone had the same reaction that they'd have later on to the Batman Returns movie. There was
Yeah,
parents
no.
concerned, and so they got kind of concerned that they'd be associated with a movie that was anti.
From what I've
Okay,
read, there was absolutely like parent group backlash, which
okay, let's
affected
talk
this
about
movie, I
this
think.
because this is a big thing that I definitely know Kid Austin did not notice or think about because he was so excited by the turtles. But Matt, I think you brought it to our attention ultimately that there was definitely a lot of influence so that the turtles in all these fighting scenes did not actually use their weapons. You had Donatello using his bow, his staff, but outside of that, they fought a lot just with their fists
Mhm.
and with the
Salami.
foot just kind of hanging around them. Yes, and
Right.
salami, like fake nunchucks, not actual nunchucks. So
I was
I,
expecting them to do like the whole like ninja display stuff where they like spin their weapons around and kind of show
mm-hmm,
that they're
mm-hmm.
ninjas and then actually like not really use them in fights, but they really didn't use them at all. Like they just
Oh
didn't
yeah,
exist.
Leonardo Swords just stayed there, and the size stayed with Raphael. It's this. I mean, talk about get off my lawn, right? It's like it's just like parents suck. Like, is that what I'm hearing here?
Well, but I feel like if you again, this was a rush production. As far as I can tell, there's no one involved who is like what I'd consider hardcore skilled in the art of writing and directing on this. But
Oh.
yeah, I went there. But like to me, like this movie, what I think it should have really been was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Revenge of Shredder. And
Mhm.
it was just Shredder coming back at them hard, just like The Empire Strikes Back, right? You see them coming at
Right.
them hard, and what they should have done is in the first act, they lost their weapons. And after that, like say the first fight took place in the dump, right? You could have had like a
Mhm.
magnet, like take up their weapons or something, and they never got them back for
Right.
the rest of the movie. And then plot wise, there's a reason why they're not using the weapons. You make the parents happy. There's a script reason why it happened, and it kind of
Mhm.
plays into, it's just like Luke Skywalker getting his hand cut off or whatever. Like you're diminishing the strength of the main character, so now they have to fight harder
Mhm.
potentially. It's just you didn't get that. It was, maybe it was like decided the day of, and they didn't want to make any changes, but
I like your version of the movie. That sounds fantastic.
I'm
Now I'm
assuming
just
they think that no one was going to notice.
well, I'm gonna tell you, Kid Austin didn't really it didn't really stand out. And I'm looking back on everything we did with watching the first movie. I can't. I There's not a part of me that thought that movie was too violent.
I didn't either.
no, it's to me, it's the same level as like, it's funny because this was what, 91 when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a year before Mortal Kombat the game came out.
Ooh.
This is like what, 7-8 years before South Park came out.
Mm-hmm.
Just hearing the behind the scenes, like I just go straight to the like martial arts episode of South Park where they get the weapons and they're told that they'll put a eye out or whatever and that throw a
Yeah.
ninja star or whatever. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, we were at that
Throws it
age
right in his
of,
eye.
very much, you know, music causes violence and then video games causes violence. And then, so like very much was the Tipper Gore era of,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
censorship indirectly, right? Like, we're getting stickers on albums and stuff like that at Walmart. And
Explicit content. Yep.
yeah. So like, I feel
Mhm.
like that was to me, it's the same thing with like a lot of the movies that kind of got dumbed down, like Batman Returns, like afterwards, like we got the Joel Schumacher movies as a result.
Mhm.
It was an overreaction to something that I'm like, and this is me being that old man on the yard saying, get off my lawn or whatever. But like, it's not the movie's job to be your parent. That's your job. If you can't take care of your kids, then why you expect a movie to do it for you? Like the rating system's there, buddy.
They must have thought that this was gonna benefit them somehow. Oh, like, maybe they thought that the one thing that they got wrong on the first movie was that it was too violent, and like, oh, if they played more into the kid stuff, like parents would be happy to take their kids, and this one would be even bigger hit or whatever, like
Well,
it.
the irony is, I remember seeing behind the scenes for the first movie, and almost all the creators were like terrified of the first movie because they felt it was too dark. They're like, this is because, the cartoon was out because most people still don't associate the Ninja Turtles with the comic. The comic was dark, gritty, bloody, all that stuff. And most people still associate it with the 80s cartoon show.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they did the movie, it was a little bit more in line with the comic. But it, like, when it came out, everyone was fine with it. Yeah, there's parental groups that had problems with it, but they have problems with everything. So what does it really matter?
They do. They really do have problems with everything. And this is why they have ruined my childhood as I watched this movie. And they have ruined this film because they couldn't stab. Leonardo could not stab someone. And he should have been able to do all the stabbing that he wanted.
Well, where I think my childhood was ruined was the fact that they weren't able to have Bebop and Rocksteady.
Ooh, that is a very, very controversial item that I think all of us walking into this movie as kids expected to see Bebop and Rocksteady.
Man, we went straight to that, huh? But you didn't like. Oh crap! What were the names? They said it so many times.
And Razor. They said them. Yeah, they said them over and over and over again. But I mean, I thought their designs were interesting. I just didn't like their characters. I mean, they were kind of more like comic relief type than they were like, oh, ferocious animals that they were made out to be.
Well, I think that gets into the entirety, and I agree that there's just an element of, for the entire film, they latched on to the bits they did in the first one, and they were just like, how about we just have a lot more gags and bits over and over and over and over again. And so they took these two characters that were supposed to be formidable opponents and ensured, with a scientist's help, that they were not smart, to create exactly the same thing, more of those gags. They never really had any good fights with the turtles. The quintessential scene of them meeting up for a face-off is ruined by donuts, which again we were surprised was not sponsored.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right with the gags. Like every fight in quotations was thwarted by some kind of gag, right? Like stuck in the manhole or
those sound effects.
Yeah, sound effects.
Those are so bad.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll kind of work backwards to get to these points, but thinking of even the first big fight scene, Matt, you had a very big comment about all the guys who decided that petty theft for what was it, a microwave television, a multifaceted device. I kind of want to own one, but also afraid of it.
Yeah, all the guys wearing the pantyhose. Like, yeah, my first thought seeing all these guys just look like the divorced dads trying to recover their income, I guess, or something. But like, it's the same thing with the first movie. It was like, and maybe it's because it's a time difference. Like back then, that was, now you'd expect it to be bank robberies and even jewelry stores or any number of things. But like, both these movies start with TVs and VCRs getting stolen. I'm like, I guess it was just the 90s. Like that was the stuff that was considered like the high end, like you could fence it, I guess, or whatever. But that entire sequence was like, as much as I loved the opening sequence of the first movie for its peekaboo style of showing the turtles, this did a complete 180, and they're just like, bam, turtles right in your face. Kino doesn't really care. Like, he doesn't seem to be that shocked by it. None of the divorced dads and pantyhose do.
Right.
No one is surprised by these walking, fighting turtles.
It's surprisingly all these divorced dads and pantyhose, which is what I'm going to keep calling them from now on, seem to hold their own for the most part against the Ninja Turtles. Like, yeah, they end up getting beat, but considering these are 4 trained ninjas, they seem to hold their own quite well.
They did do better than the Foot, didn't they? It's not good that they did, but they kind of did. They're living with April. There's this device setup of, we learn about where the ooze came from. I feel like as a kid that mattered to me, but now that I've watched it, I'm like, I don't care. like the whole TGRI stuff, I don't care.
Can we back up to them living with April? Why was April relegated to like the mom stereotype? Like, why don't the teenagers clean up after themselves?
Wait, I mean, go on.
I mean, was there any other way to do that? I mean, why did they have to be like, oh, April's mad that they're messy?
I kind of get. I'm curious as to where your intention is here, because my intention was something completely different, but it sounds like yours is something else. I've got to hear reasoning for this.
It was like a stereotypical mom type thing. Like she's now like playing like the mom, like they're the teenage kids, and it's like the stereotypical
they need guidance.
Like, clean up after yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, like
they need to be taught how to be adults. She's there to teach them.
Well, that's what Splinter does.
Splinter is a rat who freaks everybody out. They don't care about the turtles, but the minute Splinter, even the word of Splinter, yes, they freak out at the thought of a living rat.
That's probably because it's more realistic for a New Yorker. They think it's just a giant sewer rat.
You know, in hindsight, they really lost out on a great deal of not having a mutated sewer gator be the villain.
Oh, right.
If you're going to have a rat, you should have a gator too, right?
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to go with like a snapping turtle and a German shepherd or whatever it was.
It was a German shepherd, wasn't it? Was it supposed to be a wolf? I think it was a German shepherd.
The most vicious animals.
But okay, I'll go back to what I asked. Did the ooze matter to you? Did you care about learning the science behind it?
No, I mean, when I was a kid, I feel like I did. Like, the only thing that I really remember is I loved the canister design as a kid. And I remember trying to make one as a kid to try to make something that looked like it or whatever. Totally could do it now. I should totally do it. But like, I love the design. I love the gack green.
Oh yeah, super gack green.
I feel like they probably sold a kit.
It was like
back
the
then.
Nickelodeon.
I think you need to explain what gack is.
Oh no. I can't. Oh crap! I should have said that out loud.
It's like the Nickelodeon pour on your head type stuff. The neon green,
the slime.
But like, I think that it plays into the whole idea that like watching this entire movie and going through it all the way to the end. I just remember thinking, I was like, I don't know what the plot of this movie is.
I mean, I think they could have done more interesting stuff with that. Like they kind of showed like the mutant overgrown dandelions, and then they dropped that. I mean, I think that was just kind of to show like, hey, we could like create a giant snapping turtle and a giant dog, and that was it. But I thought there could have been something there with the giant dandelions.
I mean, they tried to have Donatello have Donatello had the existential crisis that, you know, there had to be a greater meaning to their creation rather than being purely an accident.
Yeah, I kind of liked Splinter's response to that. How he's like, don't worry about where you're from, worry about your character now. There was like a little hidden gem in there.
But
like,
did you take that to heart when you were a kid?
I was like, oh wow.
But it does it does suck too, because this movie is called The Secret of the Ooze. So it's like you feel like that should play, and it does, technically speaking. It is the origin of the Turtles, though it doesn't really matter. It creates two slapstick comedy villains, and it creates, you know, the super villain at the end. But all those
overgrown dandelions or whatever they were.
I think it sounds really like Bobby wants the spinoff based off the mutated dandelions.
He does.
I just want to see like what's the like the killer plant, the like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this Little Shop of Horrors? I just heard you. I was like, this is where he's going. I mean, I'm here for a Rick Moranis Ninja Turtles spinoff here in 2023.
Little Shop of Turtle Horrors.
There's so many things that could go wrong with that spinoff. One of the things I think we definitely commented on, I think it's Tatsu. Is that the character? Shredder's right-hand man.
That guy.
What is like the design choice of having him be the lead henchman? And then Matt, you said it perfectly there. So you're like, I still haven't seen this guy take on the Turtles. And this is in the middle of the big dance battle. We'll get to there too. And he just gets crushed in like a millisecond. Yeah. Why?
I don't remember him doing much. And like the only thing I remember him doing in the first movie was he beat up the one kid really bad or whatever.
Beat up a kid.
And then in this movie, he walks in, breaks some wood. And then that's like all he really does. Everything else is just like a grunting sound. It wasn't even a heavy. That's the problem. Like
I mean like for the Foot Clan, not for the Ninja Turtles. He's just there to like knock all the Foot Clan into line, not to have anything to do with the Turtles.
We get the battles. I mean, we have the initial like the Ooze battle inside of the Michelangelo calling it's like a big video game in here, and we got the Ooze canister just jumping back and forth between character from character, and then our boy Tatsu is grunting in the corner to command the team, and then my favorite is Ninja Vanish. Oh, no, I'm not going to lie. I love that as a kid. I love that as a kid.
He threw it at the feet of the turtles and it made like this tiny smoke bloom. I was like, they could have just stepped to the left 5 feet and been out of it.
I will ask, did you have a favorite gag? I'm going to say mine first because I did enjoy it, which was Toka and what'd you say, Razor coming out, and there are these big creatures that are scary and everyone's scared. Tatsu was scared of them, and clearly they understood English well enough to call Shredder Mama, and I loved it. Right. They go to hug him. I love the hell out of that. Did you have a gag you actually liked?
I remember the one that I enjoyed a lot as a kid, and I enjoyed it watching this time, but I made the shit out of that moment when we were watching this just now, and it was the bells. Like,
yeah, okay, yeah, that was
and him just standing there with the bells or whatever. And again, you're telling me the Foot passed that test? Those guys passed that test?
No, clearly they were surprised that he didn't ring a single bell because they're used to someone ringing it.
They've just been accepting everyone with full like bells. Bells have been ringing the entire time. Like, right. I guess you're in because no one's actually passed this yet. Bobby?
The one that sticks out in my head the most right now is where they have the donuts. There's like the Robin Hood Men in Tights style, like pre-fight donuts, and then the whole Foot Clan in unison goes, pre-fight donuts, what?
That's a good point, yeah.
I just think that like some of the jokes were like, they came out of like really like some kind of parody. It was like...
Could they have done more with Kino?
I was going to bring him up. I think you could take Kino out of the story and nothing would change.
That answers my question.
I mean, he was...
Yes, they could have done more, is what I just heard.
Yeah, I mean, he was interesting because, like, at the very, very beginning, like, his fight stuff, I was like, wow, this kid's athletic. He's doing, like, flips and, like, Van Damme split kicks and stuff like that. But then right out of his mouth is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle type quips like, oh, hey, I did that. Oh, yeah, I know karate. Nobody asked me this. You know, and it was like, really? Now we're going to have 5 wisecracking dudes like running around?
I definitely got Bloodsport vibes at the initiation fights. I was ready. I was like, yes, let's go. Where's Jean-Claude? John Lee. Could they have done more with April O'Neil?
Yeah, it's funny watching these both, honestly, both of them. The first movie, I feel like there was a little bit more that she was doing. This one, even more. Like it, I'm not really going on to the mom aspect of it, but I feel like she was just kind of there. It makes me appreciate Megan Fox's version a little bit more because at least they tried to make her an investigative reporter. I didn't get that vibe at all during any of this, even though that's the direction they're supposed to be going in.
It seemed like she was like on the hunt of
what?
Tiger or whatever it was company, and like she was ready. She like knew something was going on with them and like knew they were up to something, and like
but what though? That it had nothing to do with the story. Like it wasn't like Shredder was the CEO of the Tigri or whatever the company's TGRI.
This is true. With a little bit of time that passed, it was like she was investigating on behalf of Splinter, but she somehow got the full story and understood what she needed to investigate, even though they just killed Shredder like 24 hours before.
That timeline, man.
I think now's a good time to let's get to the quintessential scene in the movie. It's probably the penultimate, but it is the quintessential. They're fighting Toka and Razor, and they break into a club. And who do we see on stage but our Lord and Savior Vanilla Ice, doing the only song that ever mattered to this kid, Austin.
Go
Ninja
ninja, go
rap.
ninja, go.
I mean, how amazing was it back then?
Yeah, I love that song. I think it's got like a catchy kind of beats. I
No,
mean,
you're
maybe it
lying.
sounds like all
You're
the
lying.
other ones. No, maybe it sounds like all the other ones, but
I think I noticed this as a kid, but definitely notice it now, which is I was like, there's no way the song is this long. And then he repeated like the same rap lines, the same verse over and over, because obviously the song is not that long, let alone having Vanilla Ice thrusting his pelvis towards the screen over and over and over again. Matt, did you like the song when you were younger?
I mean, it has an infectious like hook to it. I remember liking it, but like I remember thinking at the time, because where was I? I was still living in Germany at the time when this came out. And I was at the time watching the MC Hammer cartoon show. And I remember wishing it was MC Hammer instead of Vanilla Ice at the time.
oh man, you know what's funny is I was thinking of some of the MC Hammer soundtracks. Like MC Hammer did like the Addams Family as like a deep cut. And I was like, oh wow, like
No, that track I would say is much better than Ninja Rap. I would argue that from MC Hammer. We need to have an aside after this, Matt. And you need to tell me more about the MC Hammer cartoon. I may be a little disconnected and have not watched that, so I'm sad in my heart right now.
Wow, man, you are bringing back some like way back in my deep memories.
As someone who's like little bit of first allowance, when my first like music purchase was an MC Hammer cassette tape, I need to know about this cartoon.
If somebody would have told me there was an MC Hammer cartoon, I feel like I'm making that up. That's so like way back in the memory logs.
Makes sense. Okay, so we'll get to the final scene. Shredder gets oozed, and he is big buff Shredder. Yes,
Super Shredder.
Big battle's about to happen, except it doesn't.
Nope.
And he like kills himself. Why?
Right.
Yeah. And
on top of water with some turtles as your
well, but like it was just like at that point, like they literally were telling him like, stop. You're going to bring down the house, essentially. And he's like, I don't even care. I'm like, what happened? Like, I mean, first off, I will call out the fact that like I love that Kevin Nash played Super Shredder.
Okay.
So like the fact that a wrestler played him, I mean, it's not surprising considering his size and everything, but like one, it's dumb that the Ooze somehow gave him a new costume. Two, he didn't seem like he really like was nearly as threatening as he was on the top of the building in the first movie. Like his introduction there was actually threatening. This was just like, I remember as a kid kind of liking it when I watched it, but watching it now, I'm just like, wow, this just feels like a cop out for some reason. Like I don't even like, it was almost like they, again, were avoiding fighting.
Yeah. Was there a scene where they really showed Shredder like as the big baddie type guy where he's a really formidable enemy? Like they were all scared of him for some reason, but they never really.
In the first movie, I mean, he kicked all their butts. I mean,
yeah, right.
I think that they did a good job establishing him there, but this one, it's just like, he's mommy, right? So, like that being said, I did like the fact that they switched out his red suit for a purple suit because it was more in line with the cartoon having the purple. I don't know,
a little bit less sparkly.
A little bit less sparkly on this one. I don't know how I really feel about like the sharp, like he cut the grooves into his helmet and stuff like that.
Right.
I guess for the toys, I suppose. So I liked what they kind of did for the most part, but again, I wanted to see the Shredder's Revenge version of this, where it's like him just going to all out war or something we didn't get that at all.
We needed like the Shredder hallway scene where he's just,
oh yeah.
That would be amazing. I will tell you right now, I can't wait till we have to rank all of these movies that we're watching. It's going to be very interesting, but we're not going to say anything for that now. I feel like because of the way we've approached everything we've talked about these films, I kind of want to go first. Even though I'm gonna reiterate this at the end. I want to go first with my recommendation. Everything we've said, all the slights that we've knocked against this movie, I still friggin' loved it. The kid in me friggin' loved it. And I would 100% watch it again. Bobby, do you recommend this movie?
You know what? I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I mean, it definitely held my interest and I was entertained. I think one of the things where I kind of struggled is thinking about like what it could have been as opposed to what it was. And I mean, really, like I kind of wanted like a more serious movie than what it was.
It was probably we're also in different times where this they obviously did make this more for the kids than even the parents, and a movie like this today would have a lot more gearing towards us adults who have kids for the nostalgia portion, while also still balancing it out for things that the kids would enjoy. And this was it was very light on the content. So yes, I agree with that. It could be more.
I mean, when I say serious, it's obviously like tongue in cheek because it's a Ninja Turtle movie. So I mean, maybe I would have liked a little bit less sausage humor and maybe a little more.
Wait, like, which one were you watching?
The sausage link ninja, nunchucks and all that kind of stuff. I would have liked something a little bit more in line with the first movie.
Bobby doesn't like sausage. Matt, do you recommend this movie?
No sausage
Spicy
parties.
Oh no. It's funny because I didn't enjoy this movie nearly as much as I did the first one. And it's funny because, they did make it more of a kid's movie, but you look at like the numbers when it was released originally, the first one made like something like 135 million. And then this one made like 79 or something. So like, even with that, it was a drop. And like, yeah, you could say that it's because there was less interest because Turtle Mania was burning out, but we still have movies coming out today. So, it clearly hasn't died out. I think that, like I said, I would have preferred to see the Shredder's Revenge version of this rather than what we ended up getting. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think that it's worth watching, if for nothing else, than to make you appreciate the first movie a little bit more for what you did get. I'll have to see after watching the next one how I rank it and how I feel about this. It might go up in my approval. I'd say it's worth watching if you're a Ninja Turtles fan, not so much if you're a Casey Jones fan, I guess.
I think I am a bit anxious for exactly the reasons you described in terms of sometimes you want to set the bar really low so you can't be disappointed. And I may be concerned about what's coming next, but I totally enjoyed this. So if you're keeping in line, you're doing the same thing we're doing. You're like, I'm going to run through these Ninja Turtle movies. I don't think you're going to complain about part 2, but we'll see what happens as we continue on. As always, thank you for listening. And man, I love being a turtle.